Blessed love and peace. Um, just a follow up to what I was sharing earlier. Actually, a follow up to the incident that occurs whilst I'm sharing earlier. Um, so, just a few things. One is that it's interesting because there are two crashes that are audible, two distinct crashes, and I'm still trying to figure out um, what those actual crashes are. There's a one that was a loud. Actually, there's a series, but there are two main loud crashes. One that's loud, and then the one that's very loud, which is the second one. Um, and trying to discern like what that actually is, because presumably the the assailant vehicle, the assailing vehicle, um, hits the minivan, and to think it hits it twice. I don't know if there was a second. There's only one vehicle that seems to be damaged in the parking lot. So, I mean, the general scenario is that the assailing vehicle hits the minivan, doesn't have a direct path to the sukkah itself, but basically pushes the minivan into the sukkah because it's difficult. I mean, it was at an angle when I saw it, I think, if I recall correctly. Um, but it didn't have a direct line to hit the sukkah. The thing is, if it wanted to hit the sukkah, it could have just drove from the other side of the parking lot right into the sukkah instead of hitting the minivan. If we're the target, if the sukkah is the target, it would be much easier just to drive up. But I would have seen it coming then at that point. But I don't know how much of a difference that makes because they got caught either way. I mean, at least in terms of visibility. Um, that is actually interesting now that I say that and I think about it. Because going in this direction, they're coming underneath the radar. I can't see immediately underneath the window here, and so that's a tactical maneuver. People know that. People do that. People sneak up intentionally underneath here because of that through the years and even recently. Um, and that car, the assailing car, makes a considerable effort to go along the tree line under the radar, and then hits the minivan. The minivan is like done dirty. Like it's the door is out, the rear is out, and maybe it hit the door, maybe it hit the minivan twice, and maybe it's a beef with the minivan. To be honest, and we think about that too because if it's us, if it's us, and it's the sukkah specifically, again, it didn't make direct contact with the sukkah. It pushed the minivan into the sukkah. We're presuming that we are the targets, and it's a calculated assumption, but at the same time, it's not a guaranteed assumption. And at this point, to be honest, it's actually given what the scenario is, that it's actually maybe around 60-40 at this point, because I'll just show if this is visible, like along. Okay, I'm not trying to do the whole thing or whatever, but that is the parking lot side that is perpendicular to this building, and the sukkah is right there. So there's a clear path. If it's just a matter of smashing the sukkah, that's a clear path to the sukkah right there. But instead, the vehicle, this is immediately underneath the window. So that minivan right there, which is sitting sideways, is what got hit and pushed into the sukkah. So that's a very indirect way of coming at us. So actually, that's actually, maybe it's even 50-50 at this point or even further. Um, because if it was us, and I mean, this was a calculated thing, driving on the tree lawn. Maybe cats weren't thinking clearly. That's a possibility. But anyways, there are basically three things. Well, if it was us, if we're the target, and if it's the sukkah, and it's like a point of that passive aggressive type thing, the line across the parking lot, directly perpendicular to the building, is clear and free to hit the sukkah directly. If that's what the actual objective is, um, it's a lot of effort to go on the tree lawn, and not a guaranteed traction on the tree lawn. The drivers seem to have some knowledge about how to drive, and I don't know if this maybe not the first time they've done this before. It's interesting because there's a story about this. Um, but it seems like they hit the van twice, but very quickly. So it didn't even seem time to have time to like hit, reverse, and then hit again. But they're two loud crashes, and the first crash would presumably be the assailing car against the minivan. Uh, and it could be that the second crash is the minivan against the sukkah, but the second crash is the louder crash. And it doesn't seem like the sukkah would be the one that would cause the louder crash. So it may be that the assailing vehicle hits the minivan twice, and the second time even harder. But again, it happens in like the span of a second, so that seems too quick for the car to get in reverse and then hit the vehicle again. And there isn't another, like, it's difficult to see any other vehicle being damaged. Um, and the first thought was like the vehicle hitting a tree on the way, but still, um, that seems less plausible. Um, so we have to account for the possibility of it not actually being us that is the target, and actually being something else, the whoever the proprietor of that vehicle. So don't know what might be the motivation for that or whatever else, but it's all different types of things that could be. So we have to be mindful of that. And so that's one thing. Now, back on the presumption that it actually is us, and maybe again, like I said, the brethren were just not thinking straight. Maybe it was there was specific directives of going underneath the radar and doing it from this side, or whatever the case may be. On the line of estimating the plan and the collusion involved, like who are the bosses, who's calling the shots, or whatever else like that. I gave the description of the Greco-Roman occult. However, another scenario, which is actually somewhat related, is like convention, whether it's government office, whether it's a private entity with ties to the government offices or otherwise. But that private entity, working specifically through the auspices of a political party, whether it's the Democrat, Republican, or otherwise. But it being an increasingly, if not motivated, a politically motivated joint, a politically facilitated joint. And it could still be through the LGBTQ lesbian queen pin scenario, and or it could be through the auspices of a political party, and hiring kinfolk from that political party as the grunt soldiers in this particular act. So that's pretty much a consideration. Now, looking at the video again, it's there's not the visibility and everything is comparatively modest. One thing of consideration is, again, still no neighbors, and people could sleep through it, but that was loud. But neighbors didn't even come out to see what was going on. Police didn't stop me. Now, here's the thing. If it is the Democrat thing, and like people just being patriotic, and here's this treasonous whatever, and so, and then hiring black workers, kinfolk, which would probably be further receptive. First of all, further black people in the Democratic mechanics could be Republican, but it seems like Republicans would just like bring an A4 or something like that. and not play around. Um, so Democrats are further the Banty boy, passive aggressive, cowardice, bully types, and hiring black folk to do dirty work. So, and that's another further plausible scenario. And black folk being further responsive because the entrenchment and everything else like that is further established. Um, and it could be a combination of things along these lines. One thing to look for, one thing to observe as this unfolds is to see what the public response is to this, whether anybody, whether any residents, neighbors, or other kinfolk in the village, even like recognize what happened, like say, "Yo, what the fuck is that? What happened?" Or if nobody says anything. If nobody says anything, again, that's telling because this is extremely noticeable. People talk about this. If nobody does, that means people have a knowledge about other things that are going on and know not to talk about it, not even to address it. Now that's one level. Now another level is if there's no response from the television community because again, we're not hiding behind anything we do. Everything we do is as authentic and genuine as possible for that particular purpose. So, but still, yet and still recognizing the politics of having the sukkah up there. The fact that somebody just bulldozed in and knocked it into it, in a conventional sense, that can be easily, particularly if it's amidst the very hostile relations between Jews and Muslims at the moment on the Palestinian-Israeli situation, this can be perceived as a hate crime or whatever else, and that gets a lot of attention. It's politicized by different sides, and additionally, so if that does not happen here, that's very telling because the media then is showing itself in terms of knowing about what's going on. Each of the different sides in that particular issue and contention show themselves. If there's no response, if the neighbors don't say anything, I've already said that. So we just see what the response is. Now we're not looking for publicity. We're not going announcing it. We're trying to be as low key as possible. Kinfolk may be responding to that, and that might be the causal factor for not responding. But even then, how do they know? Where are they getting it from? Watching this, watching a surveillance of this, because kinfolk don't talk to us too tough directly about the things we share here. Some people reference it, some people let it be known, but the silence is extremely loud in this scenario, and that tells on itself. And if people do respond, then we know. How did you find out? What did you know? And it's not a matter of trying to trap people in that, but then they also are showing themselves by showing like they're watching what we're doing, and not just watching what we're doing, but like the one rationale, one narrative can be, well, they saw the things, the police saw that I was recording, and so they looked on the account specifically for this recording on this particular day to see what they could see about it. That's one rationale, but still, how do you know about this, that, and the other? How do you know where to find me? Da 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 da. And we're not trying to like call people out, but we're just like discerning what conditions are and what's going on, because it's very easily that this is politically involved or politically motivated or done through the auspices and the pretense, the facade of political motivation. And the Greco-Roman cult is significantly, probably further entrenched and has its tentacles or strings within the Democratic Party than within the Republican Party, because particularly through the experience of the sexual deviance and corruption within the Democratic Party, compared to just the plain, just racist and classist and genocidal nature, particularly towards Native people within the Republican Party, conservatives. So it is further, there's further expectation and anticipation and estimation of the Greco-Roman occult being further immersed within the Democratic Party, and thus, in addition to the LGBTQ, and additionally have additional kinfolk as options for carrying out something like this. So, anyways, falling asleep again. We say, oh, and if there's anybody like wondering, yo, why am I pulling my pants up? after talking on this joint, whatever else. I mean, it's very simple. My pants are too big for me. I wear a belt. My belt is a rope. It has no notches. I have to tie it. I have to tie it tight so that it stays on. When I'm here by myself, late night, ready to go to sleep, it's uncomfortable, comparatively speaking, after a long day and additionally, and so I loosen my belt whilst I'm sitting by myself here at night, getting ready to going to sleep. And on the occasion of this happening, as I'm sitting here in that situation, I stand up. My pants are comparatively loose, because that is what is increasingly comfortable at that moment, plain and simple. But I just saw that and looked kind of suspect when I saw it. I'm like, oh, all right, I'm going to explain some of that right there. So, anyways, that's that. We might get some water now because the smell is about to begin in about an hour. It's almost the time for Fajr. How about that? Baruch Hashem. Whatever it is, still, what can you talk? Communication. You know what we are. You know we don't hate you. We know we're not. You know we're not trying to get at you. Whatever we've said to cause, I'm still presuming this is at us. We're still presuming this is at us. It might not be, to be honest, because they're further effective ways of doing it than what was being exhibited here. So it might not be us. If it is us, whoever it is, black kinfolk, holy kinfolk, LGBTQ holy kinfolk, government, U.S. society holy kinfolk, Greco-Roman, occult holy kinfolk, Democratic Party holy kinfolk, Republican Party holy kinfolk, Italiano, Little Italy holy kinfolk, Catholic Church holy kinfolk, all the kinfolk, all holy kinfolk. You know what we are, what we're about, what we do. You know we're not at you. You know we don't hate you. You know we love you. You know that. You do know that. Regardless of what we say, if there's anything we say about you that is disagreeable, sometimes we might be a little bit impatient, somewhat a little frustrated. We can be that way. But otherwise, whatever we say about you, it's about your behavior. It's not about you specifically. And we're not trying to do that pimp talk about the nuances, but just recognizing that, sometimes kinfolk trip, and we are called to call that out. And that's that. We're not trying to hurt people. We're not trying to take away people's livelihood. We're not trying to enslave anybody or otherwise. And you know that. So, that being said, you know it's unnecessary to do this. If this is at us, you know it's unnecessary. You're welcome to just talk. We sit down. You know that. We're known for that. We sit down and talk. We sit on the hard ground cement for hours and talk to whomever. Respect and share. This is silliness. It's silly business. It's silly business. So, hey. In the meanwhile, I've been running my mouth. I got cotton mouth, all dry. So, don't know about prayers today now. We have prayers and meditation because we need that. But now the energy is way. Is that the intention? Weary him with the way. Anyway, we give all thanks and praise to the Most High Elohim. Blessed love and peace, Rastafari.